If you went to a biology class, for sure, if you did not cut a frog or a cockroach, at least a flower you opened up. If you open up this flower, you will understand so many things about the structure of the flower, how it functions, everything, but you will not experience the flower because by the time you're done with it, it's finished. So if I want to know you, I think I must dissect you. I've come with my scalpel. You think by dissecting you, I will know you? By including you, I will know you. By embracing you, I may know you. But by dissecting you, I will not know you, isn't it? So the only instrument you have is a knife, and with that you try to do everything. I must tell you this. That was a time when I crisscrossed India on my motorcycle. It seems… where is Boman Irani, is he here? They're bringing back Java once again into the country, I believe. Well, I rode probably the SD motorcycles like nobody. I was doing around 55 to 60,000 kilometers every calendar year, just riding across the country without purpose. So at that time, I don't know whether I was in Madhya Pradesh or I was in UP. The whole night I've been riding. Early morning, I come to a place and I want to have some tea and rest for some time. Then, I always fix my motorcycle on the street by myself. But I thought I saw a garage. It was named, handwritten, Mubarak Mechanical Works. I looked at Mubarak Mechanical Works and whole night I've been riding, I didn't want to dirty my hands now. It was a simple thing, I had to just tighten the chain, just take off one link and tighten the chain, that's all I had to do. I thought this guy can do it. So this young, very enthusiastic mechanic came out. And I said, why don't you just take off one link and tighten my motorcycle chain? Then he came out. Then I saw the only two tools that he had in his hand was a chisel and a hammer. Then I said, wait. Then I walked into his little shack of a mechanic shop and looked inside, there was no other tools, only one hammer and one chisel. With this he does everything. Once he works on your machine, nobody else can work on it anymore, it's finished. I said, okay, Mubarak, you don't touch my motorcycle like this. So right now, a whole humanity has become like this. The only instrument they have is a knife. With this knife they cut, it's an efficient tool for cutting. Now you want to stitch your clothes, you stitch with a knife. This is what has happened to the denims. If you do everything with a knife, everything will be in tatters and it's horrible, isn't it? That's all that's happening to us. We are trying to handle everything with one dimension of intelligence that we call as intellect. There are other dimensions of intelligence within us which is completely unexplored. So samadhi means to get your intellect to a state of equanimity so that it does not interfere in your perception of what really is the nature of existence. Right now, the only thing that's interfering in your life is your thought process, isn't it so? If I ask you to sit and meditate right now, you think somebody next to you is going to poke you? No, they are fine. It's your own mind, isn't it? People say they're depressed, people say they're agitated, somebody is manic, somebody is angry, somebody is miserable. No, all this is not happening. The only thing that's happening is your intelligence is turned against you, you're not getting it. You think you're suffering because of something. No, your intelligence is turned against you and nothing else. You have a knife and you don't know how to handle it. If you have a knife and you don't know how to handle it, you'll cut yourself up. Do you need any assistance from outside to make yourself miserable? You're very efficient, aren't you? If you're alone and you're miserable, obviously you're in bad company. So this is only because, see, we don't give a knife to a child's hand, not because knife is dangerous, simply because a child's hand is not steady. He could hurt himself or hurt somebody. That's what the whole humanity is doing, and they're evolving philosophies after philosophies and talking about life endlessly with one instrument of intelligence called intellect. This is the buddhi. Samadhi means you brought it to an equanimity where it doesn't interfere with your perception of life. So we identify 8 dimensions of samadhi. The first 4 are called savitarka, that means they have qualities of experience. There are different dimensions of experience. The next four are called nirvitarka, or there is no experience as such, but there is a certain different dimension of awareness. In this Mahasamadhi is considered the highest because your equanimity got to such a place where there is no distinction between… there is absolutely no identification between what is you and what is your body. Because what you call as my body is a piece of this planet that you gathered, isn't it? Either you realize that today, or one day when they bury you, you will get the point anyway. You get it from me or you get it from the maggots, it's up to you. Mystic or maggots is your choice. But you will get it one day. If you get it today, if you genuinely understand, this whole thing that I think is myself is what I have gathered from this planet and put it here like this. What I have in the form of my intellect, every little bit of data is something that you gathered from outside, isn't it? What you gather from outside can be yours, cannot be you. Now there are instances, people, ministers and various other politicians, if you give them a government accommodation, after their term is over, they won't vacate. But there are many of them. See, we only hear about those who don't vacate, but there are many of them, when their term is over, very gracefully they will vacate. They're not news, unfortunately. Actually, we must publish news about them. But nobody talks about all those people who exit their residences quietly without any fuss. We only print news about those idiots who refuse to vacate a government accommodation that's given to them because of the work they were doing. Once the work is over, you must go, isn't it? In a way, this is also… the house that you live in was built from the earth that you dig up. This also is just the same. This is your residence, you built it up. When it's time, if you can gracefully exit without anybody pushing you out, when I say anybody, nobody need to kill you, no disease need to come, no organism need to invade your body, by yourself you gracefully exited because you understand it's time for you, then we say this is Mahasamadhi. That means absolute equanimity has come to you. This is not new in this country. In every generation we have seen hundreds of people. We talked about Nirmalananda. I must tell you about Nirmalananda. Like, I was probably just around 20 or 21 years of age. I'm living wild. I largely… either I'm on a motorcycle or I'm in the jungle, sleeping upon trees and existing myself, surviving in the jungle all by myself. It's one of those days where I've been in the Bilagirirangan Betta, which is a very fantastic forest, you must see that, it's full of wildlife. I am staying in the jungle for about 4 days and it's rainy season. I usually don't have any arrangement, all I have is motorcycle and gas, that's it. So I survive in the jungle, I know how to survive, but being rainy season, I've become very hungry. Almost for nearly 32 hours I've not eaten anything. And I'm head to toe in mud because it's raining. Wherever I sit down and get up, I become all mud. Then I came up the hill on my motorcycle. There were no restaurants, there were nothing at that time in that place. There was just one temple and the temple was closed. There was no food anywhere. Then I saw this little ashram, 4-acre ashram. Then I rode in. Those are times, even in college, I never got off the motorcycle. Even to first floor, I went on my motorcycle, okay? In our house, going into the house, coming out of the house, we always went on the motorcycle and came out on the motorcycle, steps and everything. So I rode up and there were about 6-7 steps to go to his little hermitage that was there. I rode up that. And I'm explaining this simply to make you understand how wacky the mind is. Always our motorcycle will never have a stand, okay? It'll not have a stand, it'll not have a battery, it'll not have many things which we think is extra weight. We've made it minimal. So I go and park the motorcycle leaning on his cottage like this and I get down and I'm wearing ankle-length boots full of mud from head to toe. I take off my helmet and look at him. He just looks at me like this and laughs and tears start coming in his eyes. I said, what's wrong with the old man, He's like in his 70s, I'm 21 or so. Then I said, I need to eat, I'm extremely hungry. I was ready to eat him. Then he did something that I could never do. Never in my life I had bowed down to anybody, forget about that, I have never been to a temple. I have not done this even in front of God. My mother says, hold it like this. No, I'll stand like this. I won't do this, I'm confirmed, whatever. So this man comes and falls at my feet, and my muddy boots, he holds it in his hands and weeps. I just kind of, it was just shook me because this is a 70-year-old man. Then I said, no, what are you doing? I just need to eat, I don't need this. Then he took me inside and he tried to unlace my boots. I said, don't do that, and I put my boots outside and went inside and sat. He baked some bread, he had nothing else, he bakes his own bread, he baked bread and he gave me a jar of honey. So I ate it up and then we started talking. Then whenever I went that way, because I saw that he had nothing much at all, I would take him a bunch of bananas or some apples or whatever fruits that was there, and he always gave me a can of honey to carry back. So this became a quiet… because he was not speaking. He was for 14 years on silence, so he will only write. So I will speak and he will write. It became a relationship over a number of years. Then this is 96.
It was a big controversy where…
Yes, that's what I'm saying. In
it was
96,
everywhere on the TV where all his life he worked towards wanting to get Mahasamadhi, and when he found you and you told him the techniques, and when he was about to get there, apparently the government got involved and like, you cannot do that.
In 1996, he announced, I'm 74 years of age right now, I don't want to die as a rogi, I want to die as a yogi. So when the Uttarayana comes, that is after this winter solstice happens, I will leave my body. He announced in the month of April or May, I'm not very sure.
And media got to know.
No, media came. Then at that time I was there and he told me this and we discussed a few things, and my wife Vijay and my daughter were sitting there. And we went into all kinds of details which we never speak about. So when this was over, he was all very emotional about it, and then we were driving back. Then I saw my wife was weeping. I said, why? She said, I also want to live like that. Then I was joking with her, okay, when are you going to leave? But then she said, no, I'm very serious. I want to go like him. What he was saying was fantastic, and what you were explaining to him, that's how I want to live. I said, why do you want to leave? Because 12 years of marriage, we've been traveling. People have been absolutely wonderful to us everywhere, but there is no home as such, we're always on the move. So just then, we were building a small place to live. I said, just now you're getting a home after 12 years, and the girl was only 7 years of age. I said, why now? She said, right now, everything within me is wonderful. Everything around me is just the way I want it. This is the time I want to live. I don't want to live when things are wrong. I don't want to live when I'm not well or something is not well. I just thought, because she was intense. Either she is at the peak of joy or at the dumps. She doesn't know in between. She would hit the peak or she would go down, but she never knew the in-between. And she's not a great practitioner of yoga or something. She was keeping her normal practice, but nothing much. Only thing is she was intense person. There was no moment of dullness with her, she was always intense. So she took up the sadhana so intensely. From the month of August it started, and she started announcing to everybody, in the month of February I will leave. I said, why are you talking about this rubbish? People will make a joke out of you. She said, no, I'm leaving in February. And she started telling the girl. I said, please don't disturb the girl, what will she think, 7-year-old girl? But she brought the girl to that level of understanding. The girl's birthday is in March, this is in January. Then we went to see Nirmalananda for the last time. He wrote a letter to me saying that this is the last letter he was writing every day 100 letters to people all over the world. That's his only communication. So he wrote one letter to me saying this is my last letter, and so we went to see him. He left on January 8th or 10th, I don't remember.
But Sadhguru, there was a lot of resistance for that.
When he said he'll leave on this date, the so-called rationalists moved the court.
Imagine the very day which you're preparing for so many years.
The rationalists moved the court and posted police in the ashram. This man, I want to tell you how he lived. He has a small Ganapati temple. If he wants to do puja, he will wait for the flowers to fall down from the tree. He will not pluck. He doesn't want to hurt the tree. Only if the flowers fall down, he will take that and worship. Otherwise, he will not do that worship. Some leaf he will take and offer to the god that he believes in. This is the kind of man, they put police there. So when I went there, end of December, with a group of our people, about 100, 200 people, we went there to see him because we knew it's the last part of his life. He was still fit and well. He just cried. He said, see, they put police, 2 constables were sitting there. He said, they put police to watch me. I said, you don't worry, what's your problem? They're just 2 people sitting there, you don't look at their uniform, leave them alone, you just focus on what you have to do. But he was deeply disturbed. He said, how can they put police watching me? Am I a thief? Why are they putting police on me?
I mean, the very thing he should be respected for. And these kind of…
See, in this culture, such a man would be worshipped. But unfortunately, in today's India, police were put…
But Sadhguru, the very fact that he was healthy, why one has to drag to their death is what I don't understand. Like euthanasia, these people, they will, like the ones who were fighting for it to not be passed, they will even snatch your, food. But they definitely have no love for somebody's life, but they're scared of death.
See,
that is for sure.
the culture has become in such a way that we are in a denial of death. But you must understand this. The only reason why somebody turns spiritual is when they realize they're mortal. If you were immortal, spiritual process would be meaningless. By thinking about God, you will not become spiritual, you will become fanciful, you will become unrealistic. You think there are shortcuts to life by believing in God. But the moment you see that you're mortal, then you naturally want to know what is beyond this body. What is the nature of my existence? These questions are very natural when you understand that you're mortal. So in this culture, we have never hidden mortality. Always death happened in open, When somebody is dying in your house, they'll keep him outside so that everybody can see how he dies. So this is a thing that people will watch, whether he dies gracefully, whether he vacates his residence gracefully or he needs to be pushed out. This was very, very important. Unfortunately, we've lost that. We need to understand this, whatever we may be doing. Doesn't matter what you're doing, you're making movies, I do something else, somebody runs a state, it doesn't matter what we are doing. We are mortal. This is the fundamental reality of our existence. If we forget this one thing, only by forgetting this one thing, we start doing idiotic things on this planet. We have done all these idiotic things simply because today we have to talk about saving rivers, saving mountains, nonsense. This is all utter nonsense to me, saving a river, saving the forest. This is simply because we think we're immortal. We may not be actually thinking so, but we're not conscious of our mortality. If we understood that our stay here is just a brief amount of time, we're just baton carriers from previous generation to the next generation, we are temporary occupants of this planet. If this awareness was there within us every day of our life, we would live completely differently. It's very, very important to be conscious of one's mortality.
So one good thing is that Nirmalananda finally acquired Mahasamadhi, and so did your wife, which is the saving grace of the whole episode. Okay, so my last question is, Sadhguru, that about our youth. Apparently the statistics say that every 1 hour, actually less than an hour, a young person below 25 is committing suicide. Why is that? I mean, there's a time to die and you can utilize Mahasamadhi for that, but why die before 25?
Suicide is not a pleasant thing. Not at all a pleasant thing, because for a human being to see, when somebody dies, commits suicide, we're just thinking, okay, he committed suicide. It's not like that. You must look at what psychologically that person goes through to come to that decision. It's the most horrible part of one's life, where somewhere they feel so trapped, either by physical situations, financial situations or emotional situations, so absolutely trapped when there is no other way. This is when they take that kind of violent exit, which we call as suicide. And if someone tries to kill somebody, that somebody has some defense. They can fight, they can run, they can protect themselves. Some resistance is possible. But when you start hurting this one, this is the most helpless life. And it is the worst kind of torture that you can do is to torture this one, because this is an absolutely helpless life with yourself, isn't it? Somebody else has some defenses. So suicide need not be seen in terms of statistics, 1 hour they're dying. Even if one person commits suicide, it's a human concern. It must be a concern for the whole humanity. Why is this happening? You must understand, in this country, in 2017, 7,600 children below 15 years of age have committed suicide. Below 15 years of age, when they must be bursting with life and wanting to live. Below 15 years of age, if they want to commit suicide, what is it? We are somewhere driving ourselves to a certain desperation. One big cause for all this is education system. Unfortunately, it's the schooling system which is killing people. Because if you get 98, you're no good, you know. People will ask you, where is the other 2%? So, apart from this, there are various other things, economic things are there, emotional things are there, various kinds of things for a human being. Essentially, simply because there is no clarity about life in some way. See, youth means, it's life in making. Youth, the most significant aspect of youth is they're full of energy, it's a huge amount of energy. When I say energy, after all, our life is a combination of a certain amount of energy and a certain amount of time, isn't it? Time is ticking away for all of us at the same pace, it's going away. If you sit here, it goes away, if you stand, it goes away, if you run, it goes away, if you don't do anything, it goes away, if you sleep also, it goes away. Time is rolling for all of us. It's only energy we can manage. If you organize our energies in a certain way, what somebody does in 100 years, you could do in 10 years. It is just organization of one's energies. So youth means an exuberant energy. But most of the time, the problem with the youth is they don't have the necessary clarity nor balance. If only, if you could bring 10% more clarity and 10% more balance in their life than the way they are right now, this energy would translate into something fantastic. Because if individual genius has to unfold, the most important thing is there is balance and clarity. So, as a part of this, we are just about on the threshold of this. We are launching a campaign called Youth and Truth in the month of September. We are doing events across the country in various universities. More than that, the idea is to communicate to the youth of this nation and the world that there is a way to bring clarity to your life. You have energy. If you bring clarity and balance, you could be a wonderful life early on. Fantastic you can be. But if you have energy and you don't have the necessary balance and clarity, you could become a disaster right here, both for yourself and the world as such. So we will be a part of doing this, and we expect you and all your friends in the industry and in the media, please be a part of it, because this is one thing we need to do, because as a nation, we are talking about our demographic dividend, where 50% of our population is below 30 years of age, which is a unique situation. And it's a fantastic situation only if we give the necessary clarity and balance and competence to our youth. Otherwise, we can be a major disaster. Such a large youthful population, without necessary clarity, without competence, without balance, they could be the biggest disaster on the planet. But if we organize this well, we could be the greatest miracle in the world. So we are making this effort, and I'm putting 1 full month of my time traveling across the country, speaking in various universities and causing a buzz about this among the youth, speaking a very youthful language. You will see a very different Sadhguru.
I know, you can…
Because I will dress differently, speak differently, do everything differently with them.
Yeah.
Because I'm very youthful.
Yeah. So,